We are right now experiencing a humanitarian crisis that is immense, that we are all experiencing at this moment. We are the participants. We are the deciders. And this event that is upon us, this crisis, will lead to either the ascension of our species or possibly, without being overly dramatic, the destruction, the extinction of our species. It's not climate change. It's worse. What I'm going to be talking about today is our merger, the blurring or blending of our bodies and our planet with artificial intelligence, with machine intelligence, with algorithms, with an intelligence that is rapidly approaching a point where it will accelerate to the point where it is so far beyond humanity that we won't even have any comprehension of this level of intelligence. That's called the singularity. And some of your best forecasters tell us that that's less than 10 years away. Coincidental, of course, with the climate change argument that we have less than 12 years to correct our climate change crisis as well. This isn't a new subject for me. It's a huge subject in our world right now, but I actually began looking into AI and our merger with technology back around 2000. I published a book in 2003 called The Cloak of the Illuminati. And in this book, I had been looking at depictions of the ancient gods, extraterrestrial beings purportedly, who came to Earth, and the distinguishing thing that they possessed was a cloak or a garment, a miracle garment, called the Malamu, that made them superhumans, made them giants, gave them superpowers. They could be invisible, they could radiate light, they could leap over buildings. They were super beings because of this incredible garment, but it also was something they could transmit to humans. In the oldest stories about these garments, humans would be able to receive this cloak or garment from the gods, and humans could then become gods themselves because they possessed this. I first learned about it from Zecharia Sitchin, who thought that this garment here on the Anunnaki goddess Inanna was like a spacesuit that she would put on preparatory to going into space. But actually it was more about her ascension into a light being, as it turns out. But it put me on the track of saying, okay, there's a cloak, there's a garment that the gods possess that gives them a superpower that is transmittable to humans. I followed this story into the Egyptian tradition, where the Egyptian resurrection mysteries are based on the belief and the actual science that they could use tones, lights, and an as-yet unidentified plant to kickstart the production of hormones, similar to X-Dysone, that morph a caterpillar into a butterfly. And the Egyptians could then create a non-molecular light body into which their consciousness could be deposited at the time of death, and then they could continue on as an eternal being, as a star walker, with full consciousness and memories of their earth life. And so that was a very important piece, to say that they could actually create this garment, this non-molecular light body, a new skin, and copy-paste their consciousness into that light body and continue. I followed this into the Israelite tradition, followed it into the Jewish mystical tradition with the Essenes, who believed that in order to enter into the celestial realms, to ascend, or even to go into outer space, actually, we had to become like the angels. We had to transform from a human into an angelic type of being. This transformation was symbolized by a robe of pure white light, or white linen. And it was attained through the perfection, and please note that word, we'll use it many times as we continue, the perfection of our body into a being of light, just like the Egyptians were talking, ultimately just like the Sumerians were talking as well. The Essenes claim to be experts in this transformation. In the book of Revelation, John the Revelator espouses Essene belief when he says, "Blessed are those who wash their robes so that they will have the right to the tree of life and may enter the New Jerusalem," which they viewed as a celestial city. So this is a transformation of a human into an angel that we're talking about. This is a beautiful painting by Arthur Hacker showing Mary wearing this bright white garment symbolic of her transformation into the light body. In the Christian tradition, and I'm going to go into this a little bit because transhumanism actually comes out of Christianity in its original belief system, as we'll see. But in Christianity, they were going to ascend to a new Jerusalem, a celestial place of a higher frequency domain, where beings were in non-physical light bodies, non-molecular light bodies, just like the Egyptians described. And in artwork, that is symbolized, once again, by this white robe or garment of light, similar to what we saw in the Sumerian tradition. Jesus, of course, modeled this in his transfiguration when he morphed into a light being in front of several disciples, demonstrating to them this natural, organic capability that all humans have to, from deep within our bodies, to exude light, to exude superpowers, and to activate latent capabilities within our DNA. In the Christian tradition, the mystic Jewish tradition, this garment is called the robe of light, the robe of sanctity, the robe of glory, the shining garment, the garment of light, and the beaming garment. As you acquire this, or actually manifest it from within, it gives you superpowers of strength, of vastly improved intelligence, of the privileged, of superpowers. And that is one of the motivations for following this pathway. The ultimate destination, of course, or use for this is to ascend from the earth plane and become an eternal cosmic being. And then this gets picked up in Christian prophecy, where we're told at some future point, humanity will be changed in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. For the trump will sound, the dead will be raised imperishable, and we shall be changed. This is a future moment that they're describing here, when a tone, a wave, or a reverberation, that's what the word trump means, comes over the planet and begins to transform us. Some will readily adapt to this new frequency or vibration. Others will cower in fear over it. They won't be able to handle it. Many believe we're in that moment now, where a new frequency is coming on the planet. Some of us are better adapted to rise with that frequency and move into an ascended state of being. Others are not quite so sure what's going on. As we follow this painting by Fra Angelico, we see a group of adepts who are doing a ring dance around a portal or a gateway, and they're in preparation for going through this gate or portal filled with light, which is actually the gateway to the New Jerusalem, this celestial city and this elevated state of being, exemplified here by Mary, the Virgin Mary, wearing her cloak of stars, which is that robe of light, indicated that she has completed her ascension. In fact, she's the first Christian to ascend. And what she's doing is she's elevating her frequency to the point where she becomes a fully Christed type being, a fully embodied light being. And they call this the resurrection body, the glory body, the Christ body. There are numerous names for this state of being. And this, again, is very critical for us to understand, because this is the first shoe that drops in terms of telling us that we can transform, and transhumanism and AI is actually an answer to this very prophecy and this premise. At the core of it is something that we must very definitely understand, and that is, in mystical Judaism and Christianity, and even in Islam, and this is a belief subscribed to by about 4.5 billion people on this planet, they believe that when Adam and Eve, the original archetypal humans, lived in the Garden of Eden, a place of pure light and pure love, we did not have flesh and blood bodies. We had bodies of light, non-molecular light bodies. And this was described in the Zohar as a celestial garment, which is the garment of heavenly light, light of that light which was used in the Garden of Eden. That is the same cloak that I was describing in my earlier book as tracing through the Sumerians, the Egyptians, and the early Christians. And here in this painting by Giotto in the Church of San Francisco in Assisi, Italy, we see Adam as a being of light. And the premise here is that this is our original status as souls. We were not in flesh and blood bodies till after the fall, and that all of human history is actually a quest to return to our original state as light beings, to escape the flesh. Of course, what AI and transhumanism is doing is mummifying the flesh, trying to persuade us to pack our bodies full of technology so that we can stick around on this planet for hundreds of years. Our quest is not to become amortal or immortal even. Our quest is to ascend, to get back to our original place. And this is the premise of the second coming, when we will be changed in the twinkling of an eye at the last trump. It doesn't mean we're going to be changed into 5'10" Jewish men with long hair and a long beard, like you see on the Shroud of Turin. It means we will be changed into our original light body form. And you know, Jesus is in his resurrection body or his light body, his glory body in Christian art when he's got a rainbow around his body. Now, early on, I started matching that Christian concept with the Tibetan concept of the great perfection. The Tibetans tell us that our body was designed to have its frequency accelerated until it dissolves into its natural essence, its true nature, which is a 5-colored rainbow light body, which is what you see here in this depiction on the right. It's exactly the same as the glory or resurrection body of Jesus, the light body of Jesus. This happens to be Padmasambhava, a Tibetan guru who manifested on the earth plane and taught the teachings of the light body, the rainbow light body, to the Tibetans. The Gospel of Philip, a Gnostic gospel, says the Lord rose from the dead. He became as he was, but now his body was perfect. And there's that word perfect again. We've used it several times now. He possessed flesh, but this was true flesh. Our flesh isn't true. Ours is only an image of the true. So our flesh and blood bodies are merely an image of our true selves that we're trying to get back to. This is very important because as we're going to develop here, what AI and transhumanism is attempting to do is to create a duplicate version of the human body, another iteration of the human body that's not composed of strictly or exclusively flesh and blood and actually has little to do with our original true nature as beings of light and love. So here we see that correspondence between the Tibetan rainbow light body and Jesus and his resurrection body. All of human history is a quest for our ascension to a higher state of consciousness and our return to our original true nature, the light body, the rainbow light body. The question is, how do we do that? And right now, we have 2 tracks that are being presented to us. The organic, natural way, or the transhuman, inorganic, technological way. I'm not sure that they intertwine. I'm really not. I hold the door open about that much, and I'll explain why as we continue. So in my path, it's 2002. I'm researching this cloak. Here drops a document from the U.S. government, actually from the United States National Science Foundation and Department of Commerce. You can get this document online. It's available in PDF format. It's called Converging Technologies for Improving Human Performance. Basically what happened is the U.S. government got together with all the top technology people at that time, Microsoft, Google, so forth, took them to Hawaii and said, you all are involved in 4 separate technologies. Some of you are developing bits or computer technology. Some of you are developing atoms or nanotechnology. Some of you are studying the brain or neuroscience. And some of you are involved in genetics. What the U.S. government wants you to do is to begin to merge all 4 of those separate technologies into one seamless technology and aim it at the human skin, creating a new layer of skin for humanity. And I'm like, that's the robe. They're wanting to build the robe of light. They are mimicking exactly what the garment of light can do technologically. Isn't this exciting, right? What they said was that potential uses of these technologies in improving health and overcoming disability are discussed in the report, and that they want to create a human-machine interface. The reason for doing this was to enable the creation of a new species of intelligent machine systems that can generate economic wealth on a scale hitherto unimaginable. What is the motivation for turning us into machines? Money. That's all it is. We're all being put on the altar of Silicon Valley so we can make trillions of dollars. And usher in, oh, by the way, a golden age for all humankind. Now, back in 2002, as I'm reading this, I'm thinking, bits, atoms, neurons, and genes. Isn't that earth, air, fire, and water retooled at a digital level? Well, if this is correspondent with earth, air, fire, and water, what's missing? Spirit. Where's the soul in all this? Well, as I'm going to explain to you, these people are atheists. that idea that you have, that quaint idea that you have that you are a soul inhabiting a human body, is folklore and superstition. And they are going to eradicate that kind of speech from we idiots who still hold on to these ancient concepts. 2003, Dr. Natasha Beda Moore, brilliant woman, comes along with her whole body prosthetic and substrate autonomous networked avatar body by design. Basically, the premise is your body sucks. It stinks. It creates gaseous waste. It needs to be recycled. You're really stupid because you have a one-track mind. You can't really multitask. And you got all kinds of problems with this body. It's fragile, and it has a limited lifespan. Why would you want one of these things? What we're going to do is create the new primo post-human with smart skin. We're going to start printing new replacement organs for you. We're going to sprinkle a little smart dust in your neocortex. We're going to wire you up to this global brain, and you will now be a primo post-human rather than old and stinky. And everybody's going to want one of these things. That was the premise, and that was 2003. So as my research continues, I won't bore you with the interim time between 2003 and 2014 when I published The Skingularity is Near, which is about the enmeshment of our flesh with this technology. This is a free ebook that's available on my website, williamhenry.net. Tens of thousands of people have grabbed this and passed it around. I'm very grateful for that. That was my intention, is to say, in one document, get you up to speed with, here are the developments. This book is essentially obsolete because it's 5 years old now, 6 years old now. And the data in it is very relevant in terms of the timeline, but my forecasts in terms of what was coming have been vastly superseded. They are way beyond what I presented in that book. But the key thing that I brought forward in that is to say is this choice that we have. We can go with this rainbow spectrum of bits, atoms, neurons, and genes and mesh our flesh with technology to attain ultimate intelligence and illumination, or we can remain organic beings. And that, to me, is still the clear choice that we have, either to remain organic, humans, or to take that step and to become post-human or transhumans, H+, IM+, H 2.0. They can't agree on the next iteration of humanity, but they all have this idea that we're going to be somehow enhanced. We're going to be actually more human when we become machines. Seriously. That's their logic. So in the book, I talked about how the spiritual aspect of this is being mimicked. In the book of Ephesians, Paul is in prison in Rome. It's AD 62. And he's telling Christians in Ephesus and Turkey of a coming battle. There's a coming battle in which Christians need to be strong in the Lord and his mighty power. And the remedy, he says that there's these dark powers, the authorities, the principalities, the powers, the Archons, extraterrestrial entities, according to some, are coming for us, and they want our soul. And one of their key techniques that they have, one of their key tricks is simulation. They can trick us into maybe creating a transhuman body because they don't have souls, they want ours. And so Paul is warning about this coming battle back in 62 AD, and he says there's only one way you can get around this. He says you got to put on the full armor of God. And he describes this as including the crown of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, the belt of truth, the sandals of peace, and creating a shield of faith around your body. What he's talking about is augmenting the human body. He's talking about putting on armor to combat a cosmic entity, these archons, these powers. Now, the thing is that I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, okay, he's writing to multitudes of people in Ephesus. He can't really be telling them to hike it down to Nordstrom and get the latest Chanel breastplate of righteousness, which is made of gold and precious jewels. Because not everybody in Ephesus can go get the latest Armani or Chanel suit, right? And same with that crown. He must be talking about what? These are symbols. He's saying, activate your crown chakra. Open your heart. Live a righteous, heart-centered life. Speak truth. That's exactly what the belt of truth is. And walk in peace. All of us can do that. And what this premise is that if you do those things, you will raise your frequency. And these Archon beings, they won't even see you. You'll just breeze through TSA when you go to the airport. They won't even know you're there, right? Don Juan had a conversation with Carlos Castaneda about this very thing, warned about this exact same group of beings and said, all you got to do is get your rainbow body up to the level of your toes and they won't see you. So if you think that maybe attaining the rainbow body, dissolving yourself into light is a little too much to do on a Sunday morning, just bring it up to the level of your toes and that could be enough to keep these negative and harmful entities at bay. But the key point is that we are talking about augmenting the human body to combat a negative force or entity. Here's our warriors today. Every time I see a girl in her yoga pants in the airport or wherever I am, I'm thinking, yes, thank God. Because there are tens of millions of people around the planet right now who are developing their organic light body through meditation, through yoga, through proper diet, through proper thought. These are our warriors. They are on the front line of combating these negative entities that want to turn us into machines. And whether every woman and man who is doing yoga today, at this moment, realizes she has the potential, as does the white Tara is demonstrating here, to morph into her rainbow light body or not, it doesn't matter. She is still holding that frequency, attaining that level, and committed to an organic ascension rather than a transhuman or a digital one. And in so doing, she's keeping control of her life and her soul. I want to bring in this climate change bit now because it brings a bigger picture to what is actually happening with AI. Since the last climate change catastrophe, and I'm talking the end of the Younger Dryas, 10,000 BC, 12,000 years ago, when there were two competing humans on the planet. You had Neanderthal, short, stocky, thick nose, well adapted to living in the cold. But climate change happened, and the planet started to heat up. And poor little Neanderthals running around going, I'm not adapted for life in this circumstance. And here comes the fast-moving, slimmer Homo sapien coming up out of Africa, and they mate, okay? So that was the end of Neanderthal. And I'm introducing this because, not to be negative, but we are in the same relative position right now as Neanderthal was at the end of the Younger Dryas, facing extinction and elimination, because we can't cope with climate change. And climate change is being now used as the premise for turning ourselves into machines and for turning our planet into a machine as well. We now live on every continent and have directly affected at least 83% of our planet's visible land surface. During Jesus' time, there were 170 million people on the planet. Today, there's nearly 8 billion of us. So God bless you all. Thank you very, very much. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.